They'd been orbiting the planet for about 2 hours. Felt good to be walking on the deck of his ship instead of inside some strange planet. An officer didn't belong trapped. He needed to be the one trapping. And that's just what Sheriff B.T. Justice and the crew of the Apprehension were going to do. They would sit out here and wait until that planet opened up to expel those fugitives, and he'd be right there, waiting to snatch them up. "Sir, are you sure you don't want to hear the messages from GCP Central Office?" The officer, pasty white and looking like he'd seen a ghost, pointed at his communication screen. There was no sense in abusing the crew. Just because the acid rat had slipped through his fingers didn't mean he wouldn't be able to catch them again. "No!" Justice strode back and forth on the bridge, his hands clapped behind his back. If there was one thing he hated, it was waiting, and he was waiting for two things. One was not in his control, but the other... "Junior!" The boy had been gone far too long to just be getting a drink. After sitting next to the namby-pamby Stam Gumpshaw, he needed a drink just to regain his nerves. Why had Junior decided to bring that one along on their trip? They could have gotten the crew of the Acid Rat as father and son. They still could if that boy would ever come back with that drink. "Junior! Hamburger!" Finally, Junior came back to the bridge. Two things were wrong. The first was the fact that Junior was accompanied by Officer Stan Gumpshaw. The second being that his hands were empty. "Daddy, we need to talk, and I think we should have it in private." Junior, just like his daddy, stood with his hands behind his back. Something wasn't right. If he didn't know any better, he'd swear the boy was standing up to him. "Junior, if there's anything you want to say, you can say it in front of my crew." "That's just it, Daddy. This isn't your crew. I was wrong to let you take it back. This is my ship." "Sir, someone is leaving the planet." There wasn't time for this. He'd have to deal with Junior later. "Where? Get on that main viewer. I want to see who it is." The main viewer flickered. At first, all he could see was the planet's surface, just like they'd seen all along. Then he saw it. Tiny green squares. "Just what is that? Looks like a bunch of..." It couldn't be. The planet didn't have any defenses that they saw. The only things they'd seen were a few flying vehicles, and the big green squares were like tow trucks. It looked as if every tow truck of the planet was now pouring out and headed straight toward them. "Junior, how big were those things?" "Well, I'd say they were about the size of the Apprehension." "And you had to come back here without my drink. Why don't you be a good boy and..." "We need to retreat," Junior said. BT barely heard the boy. "Evasive maneuvers. Keep all senses available and scanning for the acid rat. As soon as you spot them, I want to know. We're going to lock on and follow them wherever they're headed. I have my guesses as to where they're headed, but we'll see what happens." "Daddy, we can't do that. It's against GCP Central Office regulations. We'd be breaking the law." "Don't you go reciting regulations to me. This is more important than regulations." "Sir," the pasty white officer said, "I've got the acid rat on my scanners." On the view screen, the swarm of giant green blocks was closing in on them. "Go! Put us on an intercept course. We need to capture them before they jump into hyperspace." "Sir, there's something wrong with their energy signature. It's not the same as it was previously." "So they had some ship trouble. Just follow them." "Belay that order." Junior held up a hand. "I want you to turn the ship around and head back to Bamda." Nothing happened. The mixed orders had confused the crew. Two people couldn't be in charge of a ship, and BT had to make sure Junior understood that. "I gave an order. Follow the acid rat," BT shouted. "And I gave you an order. Head back to Bamda." "Sirs, the SS Acid Rat appears to be headed toward Bamda." "Go!" BT and Junior yelled together. "Officer Gumpshaw, I want you to take my father into custody." Stan held out a pair of gravity cuffs that would make it near impossible to move. Sheriff Justice couldn't be hearing his son correctly. He just couldn't. Junior was having his father taken into custody? Something was terribly wrong. "Junior, what is the meaning of this? I am your father." "And you were placed under my supervision. I tried to let you do what you thought was right, and unfortunately, I understand now that you were wrong. Stan and I had a long talk about this, and I'm sorry, Daddy. This is for your own good.
You and Stan? What kind of poison did you put into my boy's head?
BT backed away from Officer Gumpshaw. Officers, please restrain the sheriff. Two men grabbed Sheriff Buford T. Justice from behind. That was the last mistake they'd ever make if he had anything to say about it. The view screen had shifted, and he could see the acid rat heading back toward the BAMDA system. They were in pursuit. Finally, he would be able to capture them. Something clasped onto his wrists, and his body felt as if it doubled in weight.
Junior! We're going to get them this time. I just know we are. Father and son. You and me.
No, Daddy. I'm afraid we're not going to capture them. They didn't do anything wrong. I've already signaled their ship and let them know they can head to BAMDA and have the repairs performed on their ship. We are not going to take them into custody.
But they passed through our system. They're fugitives. We must apprehend them. Don't you understand? They broke the law. The law must be upheld. What are we without the law?
Spittles flew from BT's mouth. Junior wasn't understanding. How could he make the boy understand? It had to be that Stan. Officer Gumpshaw must have brainwashed his boy. That could be the only answer.
This is all your fault,
he yelled at Stan. Stan placed an energy stick against Justice's chest. Please, give me a reason to use this.
Junior, you can't allow this to happen. You're my boy. Don't you understand? We must capture the acid rat.
Junior put his hand on Stan's shoulder and pulled the officer back. It looked as if the boy was coming to his senses. If only these gravity cuffs were off, they couldn't finish what they'd started. Daddy, Officer Stan Gumpshaw isn't just an important officer on this ship. He's also important to me. What did the boy mean by that? That didn't make any sense. The two stood there, with their arms around each other. Officer Gumpshaw is my husband. BT Justice felt as if all the air had gone out of the room. His vision blurred and blacked. Where had he gone wrong? Where? This just wasn't possible. It couldn't be happening. How could this be happening now when they were so close?
Junior?
Buford T. Justice passed out. You've been listening to Hollow, V&A Shipping, Book 2, written and read by J.R. Murdoch. For more information about this production and its author, visit jrmurdoch.com. There are a lot of ways you can choose to spend your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with me.